This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 353 for Wednesday, March 11th, 2020. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. Joining me this week is Lou Page. You can find him at Zombies Ate My Podcast with Ryan Murphy, and as well as at Busy Zombie Lord on all the social media that matters. Hello, sir.
Howdy.
What is new with you? It's been a solid month since I've had you on the show.
I'm off a cane.
Hey, there you go.
I'm now allowed to walk without any kind of support.
Very, very cool. No crime fighting yet, but you know.
No.
Good to hear.
I still struggle to do certain things like lifting my leg to get into the car. Like
Right.
I'm still trying to do it without using my arm. And I can lift my leg, but there's some weird motion of lifting my leg and extending it into the car where my leg goes, no, we don't want you to do that.
Yeah.
It hurts.
Yeah, all the muscles are probably pretty angry.
Yeah, and once I get into the car, it's fine, but there's still small things, and I still have a slight limp. I'm still in physical therapy, and they think in another couple of weeks I might be rid of the limp completely.
Nice. Well, I'm glad to hear that you're on the mend, man, because you gave us the rundown the last time you were on the show, but like, man, people don't think about just how long it takes for, bone and soft tissue, like everything to heal and get kind of back on your feet. It takes a really long time.
For those who are listeners that don't know, I don't normally mention my day job, but I'm in disability insurance. So I look at people with my kind of injury all the time. And most people, they were expecting me to return to work in like 3 months, and I did it in 6 weeks.
Right.
And the only reason I did that is because of my age. They had a hard time estimating how long it would take me to return to work, because most people who break their right femur are 60.
Right.
Not 37.
Them whippersnappers are springing back on their feet before they know what to do with. Yeah.
And the other big news is we had Erica and I had our 20-week ultrasound today, and we found out we're going to have a girl.
Nice. Very cool. It's funny. So many of my male friends have daughters. Like people that people that I've met that have already had kids often have boys, but many of my guy friends end up their first kids are usually girls.
My coworker informed me that I was doomed to have a girl like 6 months ago. Like 6 months ago, when he knew my wife and I were trying. He goes, you're gonna have a girl.
Yeah.
And I said, why are you gonna have a girl? And he goes, well, you grew up in a house full of women. I said, yeah. He goes, you now live in a house with your wife and 2 female cats. He goes, you're gonna have a girl. You're screwed. And I went, don't say that. And then lo and behold, we have Violet Elizabeth Page coming in July.
Nice. That's fantastic, dude. I'm glad to hear everything is going okay.
I was almost late to record because we ran to the store, because now that we know it's a girl, Erica wanted to get at least one girly outfit for the baby, because we've been buying gender neutral clothes because we didn't know what it was. Mm-hmm. So we find something and it's cute, and it could be for a boy or it could be for a girl. And we've been like, okay, we'll do that. It's brown or it's gray. It can go for anything. And Erica was like, no, I don't want to deck out the baby in all pink, but I need to get something pink today.
Yeah.
And I said, okay.
And colors aside, you could do something like a dress or, something. I see a lot of times. I know with Emerson Brockett's little one. Very often they had her in like a headband, because infants have that stage, when they're getting on a year where you can't really take them for a haircut because they don't really have a lot to cut, but at the same time, you
Yeah,
have to do something with it. And so
yeah.
Laura, his wife, would often have her on Instagram or do little selfies or whatever, and she'd have these cute little headbands on, and it really kind of it was
Yeah.
practical, but also kind of fashion forward for infants. I know nothing of this stuff, so I don't know, but it
Oh,
was it was super cute.
I'm
You,
being forced to
you're
learn all the
being
time.
educated, yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah. Too funny. See now we got plenty of time for your leg to heal, so that you can chase the boys away in 15 years. So
Oh, I'm already prepared.
keep the cane
Oh
nearby.
no, I have a baseball bat that sits by the front door, and and I've had that since we bought this house. Not that there's any problems.
No,
I leave the baseball bat by the door, and
because you knew.
Erica goes, why do you leave the baseball bat by the door? And I'm like, well, you never know.
Yep.
Someone wrong comes to the door. I gotta have something. And
You-
she's like, you're such a freak.
You have a wood burning kit. You should wood burn boyfriend onto the bat just for future proofing. If nothing
True.
else, if nothing else to get Erica to roll her eyes again, like I feel like that would be the next a good way to go. Well, I do not have any news nearly as exciting as the coming baby page that's going to land in, is it July?
The end of July, July 26th.
Nice. However, the Citadel Cafe has a baby YouTube channel. So if you want to go check that out, you can. All of the archive that I'm going to be uploading is now uploaded. I still have some site maintenance, some channel maintenance to do in terms of like playlists and linking some things together and putting the post, the end of the video links and stuff in there. But if you want to hang your podcast hat on YouTube, if you find yourself there more often than not, then we don't have a custom link, but if you search for the Citadel Cafe, we should show up. I will also have the link in the show notes this week. One of the things that I would like to do is get the custom URL. In order to do that, I think we have to hit 50 or 100 subscribers. So we're currently at 17. I've been kind of passing it around the Discord and asking people to go sub. So if you don't mind going over and subbing to the Citadel Cafe on YouTube, that'll be a big help to me. Episodes are going to be available from episode 300 through the latest episode and onward. It's really not that much trouble for me to add a title card and then export the show, because I now edit the show in Premiere because I found that was faster than GarageBand. Also have some more audio editing tools that are a little bit nicer. But it allows me to do both video and audio from the same edit, so I don't have to edit it twice. It's just a title card. It's not a video. There's no like face cams of Lou and I. You don't need to see that. Lou's, it's fine, but you don't need to see me.
I'm not much better.
Face for radio. So the thing is that I'm hoping that by sharing the Citadel Cafe on YouTube, we will also get some exposure, just take advantage of the algorithm, pop culture, that sort of thing. We've seen great success with posting the Spawn Chunks, my Minecraft podcast with Johnny, on YouTube and seeing it have higher circulation. Now, granted, Minecraft and YouTube are kind of like hand in hand. That's kind of where the entertainment space is there. But Citadel Cafe is a smaller audience. However, just that discoverability, I think, will hopefully bring people in. Then they can listen however they want. So it's less about listening on YouTube. It's more about finding the show via YouTube and then going on and possibly listening to the show another way. So I'll have the link again in the show notes. You can check that out. And hopefully we'll get up there and get the custom URL. The show is going to be available on YouTube shortly after I publish it on the website. So it goes out to the RSS feed, which is like your iTunes and your Stitcher and your Spotify first. Then it goes on the Patreon page. That happens almost immediately after. And then the YouTube will be just after that. And so give or take a little bit, it might be the next day, depending on how late I record, all that kind of stuff. But it will go out around the same time. We got an email this week from Liwas. He is a Cafe Barista member, one of our Patreon supporters. And they're writing in to say, my nerd Mount Rushmore characters. Howdy, Citadel friends. I wanted to weigh in with my 4 nerd Mount Rushmore characters. These are also my answer to 4 characters I identify with. Number 1, John Crichton from Farscape. For being a nerd and how he deals with ever-changing situations. Captain John Sheridan from Babylon 5 for his moral character and leadership. Harry Dresden from Dresden Files for his always trying to do the right thing, even if it's hard, as well as the sacrifices he makes to protect his loved ones. And finally, Data from Star Trek for his intelligence and his childlike glee at the simple things human can do and accomplish. Thanks for the great podcast, Leland, or Liwas5372, pretty much everywhere. Of course, you can find Liwas in the Discord chat as a Citadel Cafe Barista member. Actually, he's part of the Minecraft server as well. And often in my Twitch chat as well. Thanks so much for the email, Leland. We didn't get a chance to pose this question to you, Lou. No pressure if you don't want to answer all four right away, but if you had to choose four kind of fictional characters from Mount Rushmore to put on your nerd Mount Rushmore, do any one or two kind of spring to mind right away?
Captain Kirk, Jean-Luc Picard.
So you and Alistair,
Luke Skywalker.
Oh, nice. You and Alistair of similar minds, starting off with the Star Trek captains.
And then I can't think of a fourth one, but I'm sure that I could find somebody in sci-fi pop culture that would fit.
Cool. Megan and I found it hard. We could get through two, but then after that, we were just like, oh, wait a minute, because the criteria was tougher. I really enjoyed that that Leland picked out Harry Dresden. I'm not familiar. I haven't read them, but I hear great things about the Dresden Files. And
once you start one book, you can't stop reading them until you get to the end.
Yeah, so I've heard. But also the fact that they're books and not TV shows. You know, I thought it was kind of cool that
there is a TV show. It's not very good,
right? But I'm assuming that Leland is probably referring to the books. And to have like a fictional character that's in there, because all of mine I went kind of straight for mostly television, although I had some comics in there, but no, I didn't have any novel characters. I didn't have any characters from books. I don't have a favorite author. I don't have a favorite character from a book. So I didn't end up going that way. But no, it's very cool. Thanks for writing in, Leland. We have more email. I just decided to space it out and only have one per week so that we don't end up spending the whole show talking about email. So we've got more coming in. So stay tuned for that next week. Always fun to hear from you guys. Really, really appreciate it. I haven't been watching much of anything, or should I say, I haven't been watching much of anything that I like. So rather than doing some crazy rant about something and telling you not to watch it, I'm curious because I know that you mentioned to me in the pre-show that you and Ryan talked about this on Zamp, I think.
Yes. When I saw this in your notes, I was like, oh, hey.
So through some of the other gaming podcasts that I listen to, as well as just basically social media everywhere, I noticed that The Last of Us, which I've not played, is coming to HBO as a series. And I was curious because the post that I saw did not take the time to suggest that this was a fan suggested casting. But I know a little bit about the video game, and I know more about the actors that they had suggested, or this headline had said, hey, this is, upcoming whatever. But it was William Nicolai, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, who played Jaime Lannister in Game of Thrones as Joel from Last of Us, and Caitlin Dever from Justified. I think she played Elle.
Yeah.
Or no, she would be playing Elle in Last of Us. I can't remember her character name from Justified, but she played like the daughter or granddaughter of like a heroin and weed dealer.
She was the daughter, and the guy dies, and then she ends up being adopted by the lady that killed her father or something.
Something like that. Yeah. It's really kind of twisted, but man, is she a phenomenal actor.
She could definitely pull off the role. The big news is that this was just announced, like literally like last week, and everybody's getting all excited for this. Naughty Dog, who is going to be heavily involved in this series because they made the games, has stated emphatically this week that this is still in early production, and the writer for the game series, as well as like 2 or 3 of the staff members that were heavily involved in the game, are supposed to move over to help with the show, but none of that is happening until Last of Us 2 comes out, and that's like a couple of months away, I think.
Yeah. So these castings are unconfirmed is the point of it.
Yes. Yeah. There is nothing has been confirmed The only thing we know is that the showrunner is the guy that show ran for Chernobyl, which
Craig
everybody is
Mazin.
like, oh yeah, everybody was like, oh, it's the Chernobyl guy. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing. And I've said emphatically, look at his resume before you get excited. The only thing exciting on his resume is Chernobyl. Everything else is kind of a mixed bag.
Hangover Part 2, Hangover Part 3,
Huntsman,
Winter War. Like, these are
a
not
couple of scary movies.
these are not Shakespeare, we'll say. Yeah. Now, all of that said, The Last of Us is probably not my type of video game, despite the fact that I know that everybody, peers, friends that are into games to the point, you know, I would say all of my friends that would identify as gamers rave about The Last of Us. They thought it was fantastic.
I will tell you right now, everybody raved about it. Everybody loved it. We back when it first came out, we got early copies, I think.
Oh wow, cool.
When we were early days as AMP, and we all played through it. We all loved it. After playing through it once, it is the kind of game you will never pick up again.
Well, no,
the story is great. It's heartfelt. It's warm. It makes you think. It tears at your heartstrings. It does everything a good story does. But when you're done with it, you never want to experience it again.
And that's, I think, by design. From what I can gather from the outside, I got the idea that it's like playing a movie. Like you're playing a single thread story. That's what you're going through, and you're going to finish it, and that's the end.
And it should be said, if you've played the game, they have stated that the movie is going to be the game story in film format.
You mean, is it a movie or a series? I think it's a series.
It's going to be a series. Sorry, it's going to be, the series is going to literally be the same story as the games in story form, in live action format.
Yeah. It's the other Naughty Dog property that's a movie. Nathan Drake. What's the game?
Uncharted.
Uncharted, right?
That starts filming in like 3 weeks.
Who's casting in that? Do you know who's?
What's his name? Spider-Man. Who's the new Spider-Man? Tom Holland is playing Nathan Drake, and
no kidding.
And they're skewing it younger because they don't want to touch the stories that the games are based on, where Nathan is older. So they're touching on the story where him and his partner in crime met, where they both would be younger. And then that way, if they have to, they can wait a few years between iterations, is kind of what I've been.
That's not bad. You know, it's got some legs. And Holland's a great actor.
Yeah, and the best part is this movie, the first Uncharted movie has been in development for so long that Mark Wahlberg has gone from being Nathan Drake in the first iteration of a script to now he's playing the older guy that's training Nathan Drake.
See, I always thought Nathan Fillion was the best casting choice for Nathan Drake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even looks like that a little bit.
I would agree. Yeah. I would agree. But they don't want to go with older. They want to go with younger.
Yeah. Well,
and I can kind of get it. What somebody from Sony, because they're the ones making that, Sony said that they were worried that if it's not a hit, or if it is a hit, some of the actors they wanted to use were tied to so many other projects that they wanted to be able to like wait several years before they make the next one, kind of thing. So it makes sense.
Yeah, and I feel too that in a lot of those situations, when you're coming with a new franchise, I kind of feel like you want to go with either, maybe not necessarily an unknown, because obviously Tom Holland is not an unknown, but he's still fairly young in Hollywood. He's basically just done a couple of Spider-Mans and I think maybe one other thing. Everything else I've seen him in has always been like talk shows or variety shows or comedy things. And but I feel like when you're doing something like that, if Tom Holland wasn't cast, I would say go with some unknown. Like just go with somebody that no one has any predisposition about, you know.
That, and the funny part about that too is that, you know, in Spider-Man he plays a 17, 18-year-old Peter Parker.
Right.
When in real life he's like 23.
He's
22. He's in his 20s. I know that much.
His younger brothers are twins and they just turned 21. I saw an interview with him on not not Jimmy Fallon. What's the other one? Kimmel. Saw an
Kimmel.
interview with him on Kimmel where he surprised Chris Star-Lord. What's Chris No.
No.
Chris Pine is the other guy. There's so many
They're
Chris's.
all Chris, so I can't.
They're all
remember.
Chris. I know, right? Anyway, that's terrible. Anyway, so he surprised them in the audience. They were taking questions from the audience, and they were trolling him. And then so Tom Holland stood up and asked what who his favorite actor that he's worked with was, and he didn't say Tom. He said somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it was fun. But yeah, in that process, he was talking about his younger brothers being 21. So yeah, he's probably 23, 25, something like that.
Yeah, he just looks young, so he can play young.
Yeah,
So I mean,
he's not a very big dude
works.
either. Like he's not very tall, so I don't know how tall Nathan Drake is, but he doesn't.
He's not supposed to be a big guy. He's
Right.
always often fighting somebody that's like 2 sizes bigger than him.
Oh, okay, cool. So again, I haven't played that video game either, but anyway, I thought it was interesting mainly because I really like William Nikolai. Like Jamie Lannister
He
was
would,
one of
in
the
all
coolest
honesty,
things about Game of Thrones.
in all honesty, HBO tends to dip back into the same pool of actors.
Yep.
So I really wouldn't be surprised if that's who they go with, and he would be a perfect fit.
No, exactly.
I mean, there's a couple of people. All you need to be able to do to play Joel is kind of sound gruff and have a big burly beard, and then you can play, and you can, and anybody that can do that can fit the role.
Yeah, but I think too, like just the quality of actor in Nikolai and Deaver, like they're both. I mean, again, fan casting, just suggestions, but I can't get that out of my head, and I haven't even played the game. I'm just excited for. I'm just excited for an HBO quality show with high quality actors in production, and knowing how successful The Last of Us and Naughty Dog has been, that they've got a track record, which means HBO is going to be comfortable putting some serious cash behind this and potentially having something cool. So,
and this is easily a series that they could do one season and be done.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
yeah, for sure.
And HBO likes to do that sometimes.
Yeah, agreed. Watchmen, I think, was one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's been on your silver screen the last little while?
So the big thing for me, and I've been super excited for this, is Castlevania, the animated show on Netflix, has returned.
Nice.
And I think I've touted this to you before, but this is a absolutely fabulous show. You don't really need to have played the games, but if you've played the old Nintendo games, you kind of know what's going on, sort of.
I might have played the first one, but it was a long time ago.
This is the whole story that this one's based on is pulled from the third game, where you're one of the early Belmonts and he recruits a bunch of people to help him take out Dracula. And they could have easily have ended this at season 2. There is a big fight with a big bad guy. I won't spoil anything for those that have not watched the show. But after the outcome, they could have easily have just been like, and that's the show. Thank you very much, everybody. And they don't. A couple of the bad guys get away, and they lead you to believe that something bigger is afoot. And season 3 does not disappoint. The 3 heroes of the original season are Trevor Belmont, this magician lady, I can't remember her name, Cipher, and Dracula's son, Alucard. And season 3, they're all kind of split up. And, Cipher and Trevor are doing their own thing, and Alucard is having his own adventure. And then they do something interesting. A few of the villains get their own plot points, where you're seeing the villain's storyline, and they turn villains into main characters. It's very Game of Thrones in that way.
Oh, cool.
Every voice actor is amazing. It's what's his name from The Hobbit, is the voice of Trevor.
Oh, Martin Freeman?
Not Martin Freeman. He's one of the dwarves. He's one of the head dwarves.
Oh, yes, I know who you mean. I'll look it up while you keep talking.
Yeah, and they bring in a couple of new characters this season, and all of them, you hear their voice and you go, wait a minute, I know that voice. Why do I know that voice? And they're all other really big name actors.
Richard Armitage as Thorin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. He's the lead. The girl who voices Cipher, you'll recognize her voice, but she just does cartoons. That's why you recognize it.
Right.
And Alucard is the guy from Battlestar Galactica that was the scientist that created the Cylons.
Right.
And everybody else, like literally every time somebody opens their mouth, you go, I know that voice. Why do I know that? Oh, I know that character from this. And
so is it dubbed or is it?
It was written for a Western audience. It was not written for a Japanese audience.
Okay, cool.
Comic book writer Warren Ellis wrote the script for every episode.
Wow, that's cool. So you have one.
Or
person...
he at least wrote the outline for the entire season.
Right.
Every episode introduces with Castlevania, created and written by Warren Ellis. Like it literally, like after it says Castlevania, it says Warren Ellis's name afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
in every opening.
Oh wow, Graham McTavish is Dracula.
Yeah. Dracula, yeah.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah, and I will tell you now, it is not a heartwarming story. It's about the Catholic Church killing Dracula's wife, and Dracula wants revenge on all of humanity and to wipe us off the earth. and the Catholic Church just trying to feed him people to keep him from killing everyone off. like that's the plot of the first season.
So it's not heartwarming, but it's perhaps about warm hearts held in the palm of your hand.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's pretty gruesome too. This is not a show for children at all. But I can say this, as a child, if I had been allowed to watch this, it would have been my favorite thing ever. And somehow they took what the first season is only 4 episodes, and they took what felt like a pilot. And by the end of this 3rd season, I was like, so when's season 4 coming? And it's in development. So this is a big thing for Netflix.
Nice.
And it's really well animated. I know you're not a huge fan of the anime style of artwork, but they do a really good job with this. It has a well-polished.
I would say that I'm a fan of North American anime. Like when it's Western anime and aimed at a North American audience, like say Avatar, Last Airbender.
I would say that this is along those lines.
Yeah. So I just don't think to go that direction a lot of the time when I'm looking for something. Part of it is I fall into the Netflix, I heard a joke on another show recently where it's just like, hey, congratulations, you've won the Netflix game of actually choosing something to watch. That's just half the battle, just picking something.
It's getting bad.
Yeah, it's rough. But cool. Yeah, I need to add Castlevania to my watch list, which I've culled down to something like sub 20, just to have something like really narrow to choose from,
Give it the first 4 episodes, because that's the whole first season. And if you're not sold by what's coming your way by the end of the first season, season 2 won't be for you.
Just not for you. Yeah. Well, four episodes is not a lot to ask. Like that's
I think they're only about 23 minutes an episode.
Oh yeah, cool.
And then season one is like 8 or 10 episodes. I mean, season 2 is 8 or 10, and season 3 is 10.
Cool.
And we watched it in what felt like 2 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's over? Okay.
Flashes by. That's a good sign. It's a good sign.
I've also been watching something else that I'm not sure you're a fan of.
So go ahead, because I know roughly where I fell off, I think.
Altered Carbon season 2 came out, and that was my other big watch over the last couple of weeks. And if you didn't like season 1, you're not going to like season 2.
So the thing about Altered Carbon for me is I fell off mainly because I didn't like the lead actor.
Okay.
But I like, is it Anthony? Who's the lead actor?
Anthony Mackie.
Mackie, yeah. So I like him.
Falcon.
I really like Anthony Mackie. But the other thing about the show was, granted, it had a different take. Like I liked the sci-fi world that they built. Like it was cool and different in a few ways. But it was just more people behaving badly. It to me it felt like glorifying the worst of humanity, and I just at the time didn't have any
Okay,
patience for that.
all right. So the idea that they don't really do a good job of explaining in the first season, but you get a better vision of it in the second season, is that humanity is turned into that because nobody's afraid to die anymore.
Right.
So they're not afraid to abuse and mistreat other people and be awful to each other, because who cares? I'm gonna die in 6 months because somebody's gonna shoot me because they're mad and I'm gonna die, and then I'll just get rebooted into a new body.
Right.
And so the second season takes place with our hero being in a new body on a new world.
Oh, so it's the
And
same character.
same character, he's in a new body.
Oh.
And Anthony Mackie is the body. But it's the same character.
Much better actor too.
I would kill for Joel Kinnaman again.
Really? Okay.
And it's not because Mackie's bad, but Takashi Kovacs is supposed to be this heartless, used to be a military assassin who's trying to find his way in the world. And when Mackie kills people, you can't kind of believe that he's a heartless killer.
Right. Yeah.
He's real. He like you can like he gives somebody some kind of like smartass remark, and you don't buy it.
Right.
You go,
It's like the Henry Cavill effect, where like he's
yes,
kind of a Boy Scout, and he's so charismatic, and so he smiles so much whenever you see him in social media, or not to say that he doesn't have bad days. It's like I just couldn't believe for a minute that he was the grumpy Witcher. Like I just like,
yes,
dude, you're on cloud 9 here. Like just roll with that, because I don't believe that you're angry right now.
right. And Mackie kind of has a lot of that going for him too.
Yeah, I can see that.
The second season is really good. There's a lot more character development. You really get to understand the world and what's going on around them, and kind of get a bigger idea of the bigger picture. But it's not as strong a storytelling as the first season.
Okay.
You're not as wrapped up into the mystery. The mystery in the first season is kind of interesting. It's kind of like detective noir, because the guy that got murdered in the first episode is hired him to hunt down and figure out who killed him, because he's a older backup that's been brought back to life, so he doesn't know why he got killed. So he wants to kill he wants Kovacs to find who killed him.
Right.
And this one, he literally gets brought to a world for a job, and everybody dies, and he's the suspect. And it's almost the same. By the end of the season, it's almost the same plot.
Oh, okay.
And you're like, okay, this is cool. There's more characters. There's characters here that they've talked about in the other seasons that I'm now interested in. But I'm eager for a season 3, because I think where they're going to go with the next season will be much more interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. I think I don't even think I got very far. Like I certainly didn't give it more than 2 episodes. Maybe 3.
It takes if the third episode, I'd say that show's a little slow starting. And it goes into some really dark places.
Yeah, I won't get into this rant again, because I know you and I have had it, but I'm really growing impatient with old format on new media. The idea that your show takes 4 episodes to get going, the idea that you have filler episodes in the middle of your season when you don't need to, like you're not trying to push to episode 13 so that you can get to Christmas.
I would tell you that. I will tell you this: Altered Carbon season 2. It is not a long show. It is 8 episodes, and they cram as much story into 8 episodes as they can give you.
Well, that's good, because I'm like, even with Picard, I'm just like, why are we having the holodeck episode? I don't need this. Like, there's only 8.
I will say this: that is one thing Altered Carbon season 2 has going for it. There is no intro. It is pretty much. It starts out with somebody asking questions in a bar, and then boom, it turns into a fight. Takashi Kovacs gets sent to another planet, and as soon as he wakes up on the other planet, people are already dead and people are already trying to kill him.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay, so that's where we're starting with this one.
Nice. Cool. So, I mean, again, I probably have to finish the first season before I get into the second, but if I'm dying for some sci-fi, then I know where to go.
If you're dying for sci-fi, it's definitely a watch.
Nice. So this week I actually have a bit of a twist with some recommendations for books, and they're not going to be hard to read because they're art books. I recently backed Creations Volume 1 by Derek Laufman on Kickstarter. We'll have the link for you guys in the show notes. There are 21 days left on the Kickstarter. I think he launched it earlier this week or last week maybe. And obviously he hit the goal quite early. It was a smaller goal. He's a self-publishing artist. So you can expect a lot of stretch goals and other bonuses and things. So if you decide to back the book, you know you're going to get it at least, either in PDF format or hardcover. I decided to get a signed hardcover. Derek's not a close friend, but we've spoken a couple times on Skype or over VoIP. We've interviewed him a couple times on my old podcast, the Comics Coast to Coast. Really, really good dude. Very talented. I love his books. I have his other 3 art books, which were like Art Book 1, Art Book 2, Art Book 3. This is now Creations Volume 1. The difference being that his art books would have a combination of fan art, his own stuff, some other things that he did. Creations Volume 1 is 100% all original content from Derek. There's no fan art. There's no other characters. Not that that's a bad thing, but he just, he decided he wanted to do some of his own stuff. I would describe his artwork as aggressively cute, is I guess the best way to put it. The cover of the book looks like a video game that I want to play. It is a spiky skull mech with a mace and a claw and 3 Gatling guns that are basically operated by what looks to be 3 little cartoon foxes. Like it's got this like miniature tabletop game meets chibi Japanese animal cartoon.
I want to play the board game that he's obviously drawing artwork for.
Yeah, and he's designed a board game as well, I'm sure. He's I've again, in speaking with him professionally, he does a lot of work for Marvel, for like product design.
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure I've seen his work before.
Yeah, a lot of like he does a lot of chibi stuff, and so he'll end up doing like chibi DC or chibi Marvel, like vinyl toy designs or packaging designs for vinyl toys and all that kind of stuff. And I think he also drew like a kids comic for Marvel, but like aimed at really little kids, where all the Marvel characters were like tots,
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just a picture book. It's fantastic. He also has a graphic novel coming out, and some of the art in this book is going to be concept art and development for that graphic novel. It's called Bot 9. And what's really interesting about this 64-page wordless graphic novel, it's about a fish in a bowl in a robot suit, and there's no text. It's just pictures. It's just, again, it's a picture book. So he's telling a story in comics, but without any dialogue. There's words like plunk and whoosh and bang and kaboom and all that kind of stuff, but there's no dialogue because the fish is in water. Anyway, it's a really cool concept. I have his other 3 art books, really high quality in terms of the printing and production, stuff like that. You can get the copy of Creations Volume 1 for 25 Canadian. That's like less than $20 US.
Yeah, that's cheap.
Plus whatever shipping. Now he's Canadian, so he'll be shipping out of Canada. So depending on what you end up spending on shipping, it might balance out a little bit. But
yeah,
for a book, I can't remember what Creations is going to be. The books are usually about 100 pages, 128 pages, 100 pages for Creations Volume 1. So that's not bad for a creator-owned art book. And knowing that you're not paying a big publishing company, like it's him. I spoke with him about his process for these things, and it's him and his wife. Like he does the art and then the layout, and then because he's got those skills, and then in terms of the distribution and the packaging and all that kind of stuff, his wife and his family help him out with the tech side of things. So really, really good stuff. I love his other books. They're fantastic. And then hot on the heels of Derek Laufman, we've got Jake Parker. And this is a very, very similar product, but obviously different artists with different style. Drawings 5 by Jake Parker. I've had the pleasure of meeting Jake when I was in Utah a couple of years ago. We actually hung out and did a YouTube video together. Great dude, fantastic artist. I would say more of a comic book, graphic novel, adventure style. Less of
yeah.
it,
This is
less chibi cute, more like motorcycles and dinosaurs sort of thing going on.
yes.
And he's doing like a mini Skull Chaser comic within Drawings 5. I, again, have Drawings 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they're all fantastic. You're looking at 128 pages, 7.5 by 9.5 inches. They're kind of like a long coffee table book, but they're small, kind of like easy to kind of take to the cafe and enjoy on a Sunday afternoon sort of thing. You can get a copy of Drawings 5 by Jake Parker for $25 US. So a little bit pricier for me up in here in Canada. I'll probably end up paying around $35 US to get one shipped, but there are other options if you prefer digital things, and you can go and get them that way if you just want to read them on your iPad. I say read, enjoy them obviously because there's no words. But Jake's work is traditional most of the time. These art books started with him just doing daily sketches on paper with pencil and ink, and sometimes marker and all of the above. And sometimes they're half finished. Sometimes it's the drawing that he likes some things of, but not others. And so you can really get to see his process. So I would say Derek's books are great for everybody, both fans and artists. Obviously, Jake's books are good for both, but I would say, especially if you're an artist or an artist, people that make stuff and draw and paint would be really interested in Jake's work because he reveals so much of his process. His drawings are rougher that he puts in the books, so you get to see underdrawing and decisions that have been changed, like moving a leg from one position to the next, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I really dig his work. Jake's
Very neat.
Yeah, it's really cool. And if you want to get a little bit of a window into his personality, he's got a YouTube channel. I actually linked to him 2 weeks ago. It was a video called The World Building Trap. So Jake is an educator as well. He works with SVS. It's a company that he owns with Will Terry and one other guy who I unfortunately don't remember his name. But they do a podcast about illustration and working in children's books and doing illustration for hire and all that kind of stuff. So he's a really, really cool dude. And it's just nice to see artists that are doing this independent stuff being successful at it. And Jake has a great track record. Like, not only has he published and self-published and distributed 5 of these books, he's also done his own graphic novel called Skyheart, which I own. And all of those projects have come to fruition and ended up in my lap. They are Kickstarters, so I always enter into these kind of agreements with the patience, knowing that this is a single person that is producing this work and may have some help from family members or maybe even a small distribution partner. But it's a small thing. It's not like popping into your local chapters or bookstore and picking up a thing and coming home with it. Like, there is a little bit of patience that's involved, but there's a lot of pride for me when I go and back projects like this, knowing that I'm helping an artist basically keep a roof over their head and feed their family, and also continue to do the kind of work that they're passionate about. And it's nice for me as an artist myself to just be a fan. And both of these guys are not only talented artists that I tend to learn a lot from, but just also really nice dudes. And it's great to see, this kind of work coming out of them. So yeah, check them out. Creations Volume 1 by Derek Laufman, Drawings 5 by Jake Parker. We'll have the link in the show notes, but I'm sure a quick search on Kickstarter or even a Google search will get you there before you can get to my page and see the notes.
I in fact found all of them by going to the Kickstarter homepage for myself personally before you even put the links up. So.
Yeah, well, when they're overfunded by as much as they're overfunded by, they tend to be top of the links page, which is great for them. Again, the more eyeballs on this kind of stuff, the better. Well, that brings us into the Internet Minute, which is brought to you by you, dear listener. If you enjoyed the Citadel Cafe, we are 100% listener supported. Did you hear that ad earlier? Nope, me either, because we don't have any. That's because of you. We can keep the podcast going because we get support at patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. And you get some perks too. There is a member-only Discord. Any support at all get you access to that server. There's also multiple levels with different rewards like a Discord role and access to bonus episodes like the Barista Cut and, of course, the Town Hall Hangout that we had a couple of weekends ago with Alistair, where we talked about the direction of the podcast and where things are going to go. You can look for more goals and things like that popping up on the Patreon page soon. Right now, we're hanging at 20 patrons. I'd love to make that 21 before the end of March. In like a lamb, out like a lion. Join the Discord. I would very much appreciate it. I guarantee you will have a good time. It's patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. I don't have a pick this week, but you, sir, do.
Yeah, I mean, I saw your Kickstarter stuff when I was looking over the show notes, so I thought I'd add my own. If you haven't seen an ad for it, it is super overfunded on Kickstarter, but it's an exciting sort of educational tool. There's a project called Makeway, and it's basically like building your own marble rolling machine with arms and a track that spins and basically would stick to a refrigerator or a whiteboard. The whole thing is magnetic. You just have to kind of see it to believe it, because I'm not even into this sort of thing. And I saw this and went, hey, I have a kid on the way. This could be fun. And which my wife had to inform me, you do understand, our child is an infant. We won't get to this point for a great many years. And I was like, oh.
This is an excellent toy for, say, like a 5-year-old or a grown man that's also 5.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it reminds me of the great ball machines that you see at Lego conventions, where they take like the little basketball and soccer balls and
Yep.
they move them around with the Lego Connects and the conveyor belts and basically they ask participants to create a module that fits, so many dimensions by so many dimensions. The balls have to enter at point A and exit at point B, but anything that you do in between is totally up to you. Be as creative and as weird as you want.
It reminds me of something I loved as a child, because I grew up just outside of Boston, and my grandfather would take me to the Boston Children's Museum, and that museum is pretty lame. But in the back of the museum, they have a perpetual motion machine that was designed by somebody famous. I can't remember the name. I haven't been there in like 30 years. But the machine basically uses bowling balls, much in the way this
Wow.
project works. And it basically lifts a bowling ball to the top. It runs like a roller coaster track, and then it hits an arm that brings it back up to the top and does the whole thing over again.
Wow. Crazy.
So I've seen this sort of thing in person. And so this is kind of like, oh, I want it.
Nostalgia. I misspoke. They are called Great Ball Contraptions in the Lego conventions. GBC. Lego GBC. If you Google that, you will see precisely what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's really cool. Make Way on Kickstarter. And boy, oh boy, is it overfunded. I mentioned that.
Oh, yeah. And it's still got 35 days to go.
Yeah. And it is at nearly 2 million Canadian.
Yeah. And it should be said, the people that do this Kickstarter, it is out of Israel, I believe. So it's good. Shipping might be expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit. Still, though, very, very cool. To see this kind of thing. I see similar toys around. They seem to be making a climb with this kind of like non-digital push to be back to more traditional things, balls and levers and things like that.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Citadel Cafe. You can find all the links to the things that Lou and I talked about at thecitadelcafe.com. Music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod. You can, of course, email the show at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com. Keep those emails coming. They're super fun. Really appreciate those. Find us by name on Twitter and Facebook. Subscribe on iTunes, Android, Stitcher, Spotify, and YouTube. Don't forget YouTube. Word of mouth is, of course, the easiest way to support the show. Poke a friend in the arm, someone that you know that is into sci-fi and nerdy entertainment, and say, hey, you should listen to this. These guys are pretty cool. And girls, because also we got Megan. But yeah, I would really appreciate it. It really, really helps the show grow. My name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I am doing online, including my illustration and design portfolio at joelduggan.com. I'm jammed full for March, which is phenomenal. talking to people about April projects. So if you've got one, drop me a line and we can work something out. You can check out my other podcast all about Minecraft at thespawnchunks.com. New snapshot dropped today, so we'll be talking about that coming up on Monday. You can follow me at Joel Duggan on social media, but I am going to point you towards twitch.tv/Joel Duggan, where we are having a crazy amount of fun working in the modern city in my Minecraft world. It's pretty cool. I have a concrete maker that uses TNT, so I get to explode stuff. It's exciting. Lou, where can people find you online?
The easiest place to find me is on all the social media that matters under the name Busy Zombie Lord. And you can also check out my podcast, Zombies Ate My Podcast, on wherever you get your podcast from. And I should say, this week we talked about the return of Walking Dead, which wasn't as bad as we were expecting. And
glowing recommendation.
Oh, yeah. And next week, I believe we are going to talk about Zombieland 2.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.